And the Denmans have owned this property for the last 120 years. This is the first time that this property will be open to the public. Hi, I'm Teata Scott, and I'm the director of the Living History Museum that we're developing here. And I really believe it to be one of the most haunted places in Texas. I could have sworn I saw figures out on the porch. It's hot in here, but I have chills. It really hurt me. It's a heart. I hope they're happy with what we're doing.
I know that you know Teata.
In the beautiful backcountry of South Texas lies a cabin. Built in 1836, this small frontier mansion has played host to a number of famous figures in Texas history, including the man who founded the Texas Rangers and a member of the family that Nashville was named after. Many people have come and gone throughout the history of this building, and it is said that some of these family members chose to stick around after they died. There has never been a paranormal investigation of this cabin, and in addition, the public has never been allowed inside of the home. Until now. We were contacted earlier this year by Teata Scott, the curator of the Texas Living History Museum that is set to open on the property later this year, and she invited us out to be the first people to ever investigate this notorious cabin for paranormal activity. Welcome to the Paranormal Files.
Hi, I'm Teata Scott, and I'm the director of the Living History Museum that we're developing here. The name is Tejas to Texas, and it's depicting Texas 1825, which would be Mexico, Texas, to 1900, when it was a part of the El Capote Ranch, which was the largest ranch in this area. I believe this house to be the only building that is still standing prior to the runaway scrape, after the Texians were defeated at the Alamo. And I really believe it to be one of the most haunted places in Texas, and rightly so.
Do you want to take us on a tour inside?
I would love to.
Let's go see the place.
This was really a frontier mansion. It had 4 rooms and a dog trot at a time when most frontier houses were just 1 or 2 rooms. And this area here has always been an office of some sort, ranch office, or the office of Ira Nash, who built the house. His family was named for Nashville. Or George Kimball, who was the second owner of the house. And then Claiborne West, who was a signer on the Texas Declaration of Independence. And after that, it was bought by Supreme Court Justice, Texas Supreme Court Justice Denman. And the Denmans have owned this property for the last 120 years. This is the first time that this property will be open to the public. And one of the things we have here, this is a stained glass window from the Methodist Church right down the road here for Annie Denman, and we will make this into a light box here so people can enjoy that. But if you notice the flooring, this is the original flooring. It's in excellent condition, and this was originally the dog trot, and now it has been enclosed, and it leads out into a screen porch. And the front here, I'm going to open the door so we can have a little breeze. Do you feel it? It's like instantaneous.
Oh man.
Yeah. Then this, Darlene Denman, I bought it from her estate, and she had gotten a grant from, I believe, the Junior League of San Antonio and the San Antonio Historical Commission to redo this and to bring the logs back to their original state. And they're just beautiful. The one problem we do have is that the chimney on the outside of the house is pulling away. And that's one of our main concerns. And we're going to be talking with the Texas historical commission, architects. They're going to help us to decide what we can do to save that, because it is original to the house. This is another room that Darlene, it was done at the same time that the room in there was done. And this is an original light fixture. And oh, this is an original door right here. And if you can see the wide planks here. And then here, can you imagine how many people have gone in and out of these doors? I mean, George Kimball was commander of the, really he was commander of the Immortal 32 that went into the Alamo. Sam Houston had sent over 7 and a lieutenant. And they list the lieutenant as the commander, but really George Kimball had been elected commander of the Gonzales Ranging Company, which later became the Texas Rangers.
And he lived here.
And he lived here. And historically, they talk about the river is just right behind us over here. And they talk about how he came to tell his wife Prudence that he was going to the Alamo, and he doubted if he would come back. And she was very pregnant with twins. I've talked with the family and everything, and I believe that the reason this house was not burned under the command of Sam Houston was because she was pregnant with the twins. She couldn't make the trip on the runaway scrape to the Sabine River, to Louisiana. So her family took her up into the hills to have her babies. And of course, she was not here when Sam Houston gave the order to burn, so it was never burned. When I went to the library over in Gonzales and was doing research, it showed that Santa Anna, after he left the Alamo, he came down the south side of the river and then came right up here to where the river is right here, and then made a hard turn to go 77 acres down that way, the way the river runs, and then south, following the river to Gonzales, because that's the way he went into Gonzales. And we're going to do research to find out if Santa Anna might have stayed here, because if he sent his scouts out and everything, and this was in 1836, that was the coldest winter that they had ever had in Texas. They had snow down in the valley, and Santa Anna's troops had come north in tropical gear. And so I find it hard to believe if one of his scouts found an empty home that was fully furnished with 2 fireplaces, that he would not have taken advantage of that. And so we want to check his daily logs and everything and see if he stayed in a log cabin somewhere outside of Walnut Springs, which is what Seguin was at that time, was called Walnut Springs. So, it's so funny, the chairperson of the Guadalupe County Historical Commission, he said, well, what are you going to do, rewrite history? And I said, no, we're going to research it. But it would be awesome to find out that Santa Anna stayed here. Mm-hmm. If you notice here, these windows, you see how low they are. And the director of the Presidio, Mark, the director of the Presidio, was here recently, and he said, I've never seen them that low. And I said, well, if you sit right here, if you open these windows, they swing all the way over here, and you can sit and shoot. If anybody's coming, because this is up on a hill and that's down lower, so if anybody's coming, they can just pick them off, I guess, mm-hmm. And they don't have to worry about getting tired. They can sit here, and this was the dining room, so I guess they could eat in between. I'm going to tell you, I just get more and more amazed at primitive engineering. Mm-hmm. When you're around these homes, like this home is in the hills, and it's not at the top of the hill. It's just a little bit to the east of the hill. So during the day, you don't get the western sun right on you get the light, but you don't get the beating of the sun right there. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
it's crazy.
They just
good for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And and so there was in between George Kimball and Claiborne West, she married a scoundrel. Prudence was Ira Nash's wife, and she married She was married to Ira Nash, and then she was married to George Kimball, and then she was married to a Hallbrook fellow, and then she was married to Claiborne West. Hallbrook stole everything from her. Her cattle, her money, her livestock, everything. And the family had to come to her rescue. And so after that, the family helped her and everything. And then about 2 years later, she married Claiborne West. I don't think this was a Frontier, Texas. I don't think it was a place she wanted to be alone. You wanted to have a partner, a helpmate, that to work together, because when you think about it, their diet consisted of about 5,000 calories a day, because they worked so hard for everything, and they had to either catch it, clean it, cook it, or either grow it and cook it themselves. So I have a feeling that they just worked from sun up to sundown. And those are the people who made Texas.
And the
so
ones
thank
that
you.
have stuck around.
Yeah.
Like in this cabin.
Yes. And just as you say that, I'm just amazed. I mean, look, we're hot in here.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all can see the sweat on my brow, but it's hot in here. But I want you to see, just as we were talking about the people that made Texas, I have chills.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And when this home was first purchased, I came in here and I said, I want to take care of this property, but y'all have to take care of me. And I really felt a presence, like something was hugging me. That kind of feeling, that kind of cohesiveness at that moment. And then my granddaughter, I was determined that she was going to have the first event out here, and that was her debutante party in February. And I was in here working diligently, setting up the different food tables and flowers and all of this. And I swear to you, I felt myself being watched, from that porch especially, because the screened-in porch was kind of their main family room. You notice there's no halls in this house. Everything comes off of that front porch. I mean that back porch, excuse me. I felt it, and I told him, I said, I've got so much work to do. Please don't show yourself to me. It scare me. And then when I was over in the other ranch house, which was built around 1900, when it was a part of the Capote Ranch, I was working on the floors over there. And it's the living room, dining room, and then the kitchen, and then the back room where we have a tree inside the house. It's not a tree house, it's a house tree. And so I was working on the flooring and everything, and I looked up, and in that room between the tree room and the kitchen, I saw a very large figure, and like the outline of a figure, and it was huge. And George Kimball, who lived here, he was a very big man, and I can't help but believe maybe it was him, and I've never felt an ominous feeling here. I've never felt frightened or anything, but I have definitely felt the spirits here. And who knows, with George Kimball being the commander of the Immortal 32, Sam Houston probably walked through these doors, maybe David G. Burnett, the first president. I mean, because Prudence would have been a very honored widow at that time. So there's no telling how many prominent people have walked through here. And with the El Capote Ranch and the Denmans, they are very prominent in our area between here and San Antonio. And the previous owner was telling me, the wife of the previous owner was telling me that one night this has always been like an office, and they had a computer set up in there. And she heard her daughter screech, and she said, calling Mom. And mothers know their children's, when they're faking and when they're just really calling for help. And she came running in and she said, look, and the mouse on the computer was moving and nobody was touching it. Oh, gee, there goes those chills again. Darlene Denman was the one. She was she had married a sayer, but Darlene Denman was the one that got the historical designation for this property and got all of the recognition for the property and everything. And she did that at a time like in 1962 when you had to go to a library to find out everything. There was no internet. I can probably find out more on the internet in 15 minutes than she could have at a genealogical library or at a records department in over at Gonzales for a month's work, Mm-hmm. But she did it, and she got the state historical designation, and plus the Guadalupe County Conservative Society, and of course that's with the historical. But this was her office, and this is where the child said she saw, well, the mother said too, it was moving, and the mother said she put her hand on it, and it went like this, like, get off my, like the mouse went, get off of me, kind of thing. And the really strange thing about it is the mouse was playing the game. So it was something intelligent doing something.
That is so bizarre.
I know.
What a strange story.
I know. And her son, she has two old, Debbie Saylor who was telling me this, she has two older sons. Neither one of them would come up here at night.
And just because of the activity?
They were frightened, yeah. They had seen so much.
Something intense obviously happened to them.
Oh, yes. I mean, after dark, they would not come up here.
So what else has happened in this house, paranormal-wise?
Well, like I say, I have felt things. My granddaughter has felt things. And it's really funny, when you came, she was telling me about it. And I said, Angel, you never told me about that. And she said, I didn't want to scare you. You can ask her what has happened to her. I mean, she's heard things and saw things in here. Mm-hmm. That night that I was in here working on, preparing for Angel's debutante ball party, after party, I could have sworn I saw figures out on the porch. And today, when I came in, it was so strange because, and this is the first time this has happened, but I went to unlock the place today for y'all, and it really hurt me. I went to unlock it, and my ring bent, and I can't even tell you what it bent on. There's really nothing there for it to bend on with our locks, but when you look at it, really, it's a heart. So, I don't know. I hope they're happy with what we're doing, because what we want to do is ensure that future Texans have this house to know the history of the great people that made Texas what it is today.
So in your opinion, why is knowing history so important for young people?
I think number one, it teaches us that things just don't happen, that you have to make them happen. And two, if it's something that's not positive, we need to know about it. We need to realize why people are doing it and why they did it and why we should not do it again. What do they say? If you don't study history, it'll repeat itself. But with this, I think it's a real positive history of the people that came here. I mean, Ira Nash, this is setting on the original Spanish land grant. And Ira Nash and Prudence, his wife, and their 3 children, they received 4,240 acres, I believe, is what is in a league. And they received a whole league plus 177 acres, which was called a labor, because it was all in Spanish denominations at a time when, like, Ira Nash was from Tennessee. Land was so expensive there, and they could come here, and it came to about $30 what it cost them to buy the land. It was a new start, and they were willing to work for it. So,
The rest is history.
well, and that's good history. Be willing to work for it and get what you want.
Nothing's free.
No?
Well, I think we're good here.
That's great.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we can just make this real quick. Do you want to just introduce yourself? You can look right at the camera.
I'm Angel. I'm Teata Scott's granddaughter.
What have you experienced in the cabin?
When we were setting up stuff for the party we were hosting the first night, I kept hearing my name getting called, and no one was around. It was daytime when I walked into the cabin to go get some of the glasses from in there, and I had heard like a baby crying, and no one was around, so I walked around, I didn't see anything. And the last thing I had is a lot of people touched my hair, and I felt someone like how a child does it, like pull on your hair. I don't go in there and move it myself.
Not at all by yourself?
Never, no.
How about at night at all?
God, no.
Nope?
No.
Too much?
If your hair stand up on the back of your neck, I'm good. No.
I wonder how he would do in there. Good? Probably not. So at the end of the day, I forgot to ask you, who do you think is haunting the cabin? Who do you think is the most prominent?
Well, I think Claiborne West is the most prominent energy there because he was the last habitant of Prudence's husband. But I think over at the ranch house, I think it's George Kimball, because I've seen a huge silhouette, and he was a big man, and I've seen a huge silhouette, and I just think it's probably him.
Mm-hmm.
And today, the city of New Braunfels given us 2 buildings for receptions and classrooms and such. And the moving company came out to see what location we're going to put the houses in. And the lady that was with him, she was standing in the entryway between the living room and dining room. And all of a sudden I saw her doing something, you know, like getting something off of her hair. And I said, oh, did a bug come in? You know, and she went, no, I was looking to see if you had baskets hanging or something, because it felt like something pulled my hair. And I said, really? And she said, yes. And it wasn't like violence or anything. It was just like she had kind of a high ponytail, and it was just kind of like it was pulled a little bit. Enough that she thought that she had caught her hair in a basket or something.
And that was just this morning?
Yeah, that was just today, about 11 o'clock.
And we're the first people to ever investigate these buildings?
The first people. This property has been privately owned for 200 years and has never had anyone touring it or anything. So as far as paranormal, y'all are the very first people to ever investigate here.
Well, be interesting to see what we can dig up.
Oh, I hope. I would just like to know, I would hope and pray that they'll talk to us, that they will just give us some glimpse of their feelings, their emotions, or what their lives were like, or something, just give us a story to tell to people in the future,
Mm-hmm. hello.